I'm gonna go on a rant. I'm gonna get mad today. This is something that has bothered me for literally 10 years of consuming media. It's still going on, and it's gotten to a boiling point with me, so I'm going to talk about it today, and I'm going to give myself permission to be as upset and condescending as can be, because it's been going on long enough. So, you have been forewarned. It's an idea that's destroyed stories, torn down characters, and it basically kills the reasons why we enjoy and get immersed in these stories in the first place. It's the idea from busybodies and fools that depicting something means that you are promoting something, and that in order for stories to be clean and acceptable, releasable, and viewable, you cannot so much as depict negative behaviors lest the audience copy them or something. This way of thinking has led to the killing of many a media viewing experience, as it seems some writers have decided that there's certain flaws that characters are not allowed to have. Let's start with a recent example. The writers of the Netflix Last Airbender adaptation saying that they had to remove Sokka's sexism, saying that many of the scenes from the iconic 2000s Nickelodeon children's program were iffy. This was the sexism in question.
I knew I should have left you home. Leave it to a girl to screw things up.
Never mind the fact that Sokka's negative views towards women were due to the culture he lived in, and that it's literally a part of his character arc that he grows out of those views. It means something to his character to watch him mature out of this throughout the series. It's very crucial to the way he meets his love interest, and she's a warrior, and she puts him in his place, and he learns from that, and their relationship goes from there. It's literally the kickoff to the entire show, where because of Sokka's negative views on women, he makes his sister angry, and in a fit, she uses her water bending powers and it releases the avatar. It's very crucial. There are strong anti-sexist messages throughout the entire Avatar series as characters with those worldviews change. They are challenged. But the only way that the show is able to have those anti-sexist themes is by showing the sexism in the first place. But the new show was afraid to do that, and what is the result? Sokka is already a far more mature character from the beginning, so he doesn't have as much development to go through. His sister Katara loses her spunk, her fight, her short temper fighting against the views of her tribe. She stops being a dynamic character and just kind of becomes nervous and pathetic. Instead of Sokka coming on to Suki and having her put him in his place, now since he's respectful to women from the beginning, now they've got Suki as the one throwing herself at him. So upon removing the depictions of sexism in Avatar, they actually ended up removing the feminist elements as well. Nice one, guys. Depicting is not promoting. My favorite character of all time was destroyed because of this way of thinking. Good old Harley Quinn. She existed for years as a sycophantic woman, so obsessed and enamored with another psychopath. She followed him, ruined her life for him, dressed like him, and became very dangerous. And it provided a fantastic cautionary tale on obsession and abusive relationships. I could both root against this character and sympathize her at the same time. This story led to my favorite comic of all time being published. That is, until the mainstream got their hooks into her in 2016. All of a sudden, that story of abuse and falling from grace had to be removed, because the half-naked psycho lady who dresses like a clown and murders people might be instilling bad morals in the girls who might find her entertaining. Because, you know, Harley Quinn has tortured and murdered children on multiple occasions, but heaven forbid she have bad taste in men. Heaven forbid we depict this clinically insane, sadistic character who finds jokes about baby murder funny.
What's red and flat? A baby under an anvil. Why couldn't the policeman catch the thief? Because his legs had been cut off. A father takes his family to the amusement park. They all die in a car crash on the way home.
As someone who willingly stays in an unhealthy relationship, that is a bridge too far. So they changed the character and they ruined her, because every producer who worked on those films was too afraid to depict the abusive element in the first place. So therefore she had no depth, she had no development. She became a loud, one-dimensional Deadpool ripoff in everything. But for whatever reason, as the writers tried to change this villainess into a feminist icon, they actually made her have worse content than before. They certainly started making a habit of making her sexually assault characters as a joke, very feminist. They made her grosser, more violent, and more shallow than ever. But she's not in the offensive relationship anymore. Therefore, she can be a strong feminist icon. A strong feminist icon who screams F-bombs and assaults people. Who still dresses like the guy she's supposed to be independent from. No one who is serious about feminism would see this character as a feminist icon in any version. That's ridiculous. And I've seen this character, who was once legitimately one of the most fan-favorite characters in comics, be destroyed because of this. It seems everyone hates her in anything she shows up in these days. And still I'll see people say, oh, well, maybe they could do the, she redeems herself and becomes independent. Maybe it could work. No, how about no? How about she just makes the wrong decisions and remains a cautionary tale? Because that worked. Because not every character is about growth. Not every character makes the right decisions. Not every character has a happy ending. Some of the most powerful storytelling you can ever get is through the cautionary tale. Because with a cautionary tale, when you show a character make bad decisions and have to face the consequences permanently, that forces people to confront the consequences of those certain actions. It's confrontational. It shows people the threat of what happens if they don't change. A cautionary tale can be so powerful. And that's what this character used to have, but now they're promoting her as Miss Feminist Icon while she's still doing horrible things, in some cases even worse things than before. And I've watched this character get utterly cremated in the last 8 years because of this way of thinking. Her story started in a children's program in the 90s. Kids in the 90s could handle this character's story, but apparently adults in the 2010s could not. Of course, they do this to the Joker too. They've done it for years. Some people are upset that the Joker has so many fans. Because apparently if you like a character that is a murderous psychopath, that must mean you want to be a murderous psychopath yourself. Do you know how stories work? Do you know why we read stories? And in case you're wondering, all kinds of people do this. I knew a guy once who said that it is wrong for you to like the relationship between Batman and Catwoman. Why? Well, he said it's toxic. I mean, yeah, what's the problem with that? Why do you think that we read about these characters and relationships? When they have friction between them, it makes it interesting. I see people do this with relationships and fiction all the time. Like, oh, it's okay if you like it as long as it's a healthy relationship. Why? Relationships in real life are not always healthy. Of course, we're going to want to read stories where things aren't always healthy. Like, you're always going to have friction in a relationship. It's what makes it interesting to read about. As long as as long as the story isn't actually saying it's right to have that kind of toxicity, then it's fine. We don't read things and enjoy things because we want to be the thing. What makes you think that if you enjoy something, then you want to be it or have it, whatever it may be? I think that if Iron Man was created today, we couldn't have Tony Stark being a womanizer. Even though, as any fan of that series knows, that's the point of his character arc. He grows out of that womanizing. But these days, a depicting is promoting, so we can't show a character being a womanizer. That might make people think that that's okay. Why do you think that the audience is dumb? Why do you think that we don't have discernment? It is because characters have flaws, and we can watch them grow out of them, or in some cases, not grow out of them. That makes them interesting to read about. This is why people pay attention to stories. Speaking of the cautionary tale, as I was saying before, I was seeing people do this with Dune Part 2, because it is a cautionary tale of someone who falls into a lust for power and political corruption, and it does not have a happy ending. But some people looked at this and said, oh, this is a white savior narrative. It's about a false messiah. Literally, can you not understand this? Oh, the politics in Dune, the government, they don't treat people very nicely. They don't treat women very nicely. Actually, the Dune books have lots of powerful women in there, but it is a story literally about corruption. Don't expect a lot of heroic characters you can root for in it. And a cautionary tale, once again, very important because it shows people the consequences of their actions. It makes people uncomfortable, showing the terrible things that can happen if people let themselves fall into certain bad behaviors. But that is something that apparently people cannot understand, because we can't have stories out there that make people uncomfortable. We can't have stories out there that are challenging in any way. No, we have to portray stories out there that are exactly the way things are in real life, so that They promote the correct behavior so that people will know how to behave correctly. We wouldn't want people going out there and reading stories and getting ideas and thinking.
It's not right for a woman to read. Soon she starts getting ideas and thinking.
Because, that's what stories do. When we see these different behaviors and where they lead to, they make us think. But no. Stories are about portraying everything in the correct manner. Exactly how people should behave in real life, so they will behave in that way. Villains can't be villains anymore. There was this group of people for years that they would find villains and they would try to find ways to justify their actions, make it out so how these characters were actually the misunderstood heroes of the story. And the reason why they would do this is these people were uncomfortable that they enjoyed the villains, because they would feel that that would reflect badly on them and mean that they are bad people. So they had to take these villains and change them and make them seem justifiable or misunderstood so that they could feel comfortable with liking them. Guys, you can just like the villains. It's okay. Why do you think that if you like a thing, that means you want to be that thing? Oh, I understand where it's all coming from now. It's a projection from these people. I don't know the puritanical mindset you've been raised under if you think that if you like a thing, it means that you want to be that thing. That you can't enjoy something unless it mirrors exactly the way things should be in real life. You can't tell stories like that. You can't tell stories that way. The characters can't be humans that way. They can't have flaws that way. Not every story should have a happy ending. Listen, there are some times where you can make the argument that something is actually promoting something wrong. Years ago, there was the show 13 Reasons Why, and that came under a lot of fire because the show said that it was a message against suicide, but a lot of people argued that the show was inadvertently promoting suicide. For example, that they graphically showed the suicide itself, and experts say that if you actually show a suicide, that actually increases the rate of people who are actually going to commit suicide. But the thing with that is when you have context that say whether intentionally or unintentionally something might be glamorizing something negative or romanticizing something in a bad way, then you have an argument about it. When you pick context clues to back it up the way something is portrayed or the message it might be inadvertently promoting, then you have an argument. But to just say just because bad behavior is depicted, then it's being promoted is completely false. If you think that way, there is no way around it. You are illiterate. If you think that Dune Part 2 is a white savior narrative, you are illiterate. You are illiterate if you think that if you like a villain, then that makes you a villain, or that you can't like something unless it is pure and perfect, or if you think that just because a story makes you uncomfortable, then it can't exist. I'm uncomfortable with the subject matter I know is explored in A Clockwork Orange. Do you know how I deal with that? I don't watch the movie. I'm not going to go behind the scenes and get the movie banned or remade or tell people that they can't explore that kind of subject matter. I know the film isn't promoting any of the violence it's talking about, but I'm still uncomfortable with watching that, so I'm simply not going to watch it myself. And I wish a lot of other people would be willing to take that stance, that if something makes them uncomfortable, then it's okay for them to simply not watch it and not destroy it for other people. Because if we tried to sanitize things on the level so that nobody is upset by anything, we couldn't have anything at all. Literally. Do you know why I read stories or watch them or whatever? I want to explore other worlds. I want to be able to feel other experiences. That's not exclusive to just feeling happy and safe all the time. Most of the time, it's the exact opposite. I want stories to scare me. I want them to make me think of horrifying concepts I never have before. I want them to make me feel sad for people who don't even exist. I want them to make me understand experiences that I never have had. I want them to make me understand things about myself that I've never realized. I don't get that as long as people are trying to place barriers and training wheels on art, saying, no, you can't explore that. We have to correct this. We have to sanitize that. We can't even have characters have flaws anymore. We can't even portray bad things as a bad thing anymore. We just have to cut it all out. and be massive hypocrites while we do it. As cheesy as it sounds, imagination is the greatest gift we've been given. It means we never have to be confined to any one place we may live. We are given infinite possibilities to explore anything. Imagination is the greatest mind opener that we have. And there's some people out there that I don't think like that. Don't restrict what stories people are allowed to tell. Don't restrict what kind of stories we're allowed to hear. You know what we need today? Psycho. No, literally, we need Psycho. Because in the 40s and 50s and even back to the 30s, a similar thing happened in media, where media had to be controlled, micromanaged, and sanitized in every way imaginable, and it greatly restricted the kinds of stories and the kinds of subject matter that was allowed to be explored publicly. So what happened? Well, several things happened. Several movies got released that started pushing the boundaries on these restrictions, but the big, most famous movie that was released that blew apart all of these restrictions on storytelling was Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. It blew back on all of these tight boundaries. It had violence. It had a person with a very creepy relationship with his mother. It had murder. It had a toilet flushing. Basically, it blew the lid off of all of these restrictions in media and was a massive hit. It scared the wits out of people, and it ended the Hays Code. What we need today is media that pushes, no, slams down the boundaries that have been put up so that we can use stories the way they're supposed to be used, which is to explore all of these different experiences. And some of them might not be pretty, or maybe some of them just aren't pretty on the way to the end. I'm just too passionate about media and art and entertainment to let people who don't seem to even understand what it's for use it and mold it as just a tool to make people think the correct way. That's not what media is all about. That's not what entertainment is all about. That's not what art is all about. Or maybe we could just leave things the way they are and maybe even get worse, you know? See how bad things get so people might understand the consequences of them.